Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gaming Daddy channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. So today we're going to be looking at some things about the division and some of the pertinence to the gaming industry at large. It's going to span a wider, broad subject area. So kick back, relax. If you're listening while driving, I appreciate you. If you're listening in whatever activity you're doing, thank you so much for hopping in. So here's what's going on. One of our developers from the division, studio, Massive Ubisoft, moved away from Massive and basically announced it on Twitter. So this is Nicky Coupens. And just as of today, he announced that he was going to be taking a job with IO Studios. Shout out to Daddy Fuye who made a video about this. It was a short video, so please check that video out. It's a very short one. I would encourage you to watch it because he just goes straight and asks the questions. In my opinion, I just thought that this was more of a sign of some of the changes I'd been suspecting going on in the gaming industry. So he shared, I'm excited to share I'll be joining the people at IO Interactive in September at the Copenhagen office to work on secret stuff. Now, whatever the secret stuff is, we don't know, but some people are betting that it's the Project 007 that they're working on. So they're probably going to be working on a 007 game. Some people are even saying some weird stuff like, oh, this is a downgrade, blah, blah, blah. And I'm laughing going, no. In fact, if anything, this is probably one very tiny sign of the impending transformation that the gaming industry is going to see. Now, I'm not going to take this one anecdotal situation and judge the entirety of the gaming industry with Nicky Coupens, but I'm going to at least point out to some of the games that have been dropping in the past few months and in the past few, years. And these are independent games that have been coming out and actually doing a good job. Example is The Ascent. You see, this particular game came out in a few weeks ago, and everybody loves it. It's a co-op game, RPG shooter, and does a good job in representing a cyberpunk world. The game came out, in my opinion, in a better fidelity than Cyberpunk 2077. Yes, the reviews did say that there were technical issues, but nothing compared to what Cyberpunk 2077 got to see even on the PlayStation and even on some PCs. But this game was made by a small team out of Sweden. And one of the really interesting things about small teams is they're able to cut through a lot of the brass and just get your game done. I think right now that advantage is what a lot of these developers who are looking at these studios are banking on. Not only that, the idea that you probably don't have to work under very stressful conditions which require too much coordination and some things that could also affect your job is probably also very attractive to them. And what I mean by that is if you imagine a studio like Massive Ubisoft, where they have 700 employees, depending on how many games they're working, you probably have to coordinate across a few hundred people to be able to get everything done. I think these kinds of situations can actually pile on a whole lot more stress for developers. And so I think this is something that you're going to be seeing from time to time. Now, not only did this particular developer make this decision, I'm not going to sit here, like I said, and take this one anecdotal evidence and say, oh, this is exactly the impending aspect of gaming as we see it right now. I'll show you another example of another development team that I've kind of been following in the background, and that is a team at Respawn. So Respawn is developing a new single-player adventure game, right now, and they're a small studio as well, and they're looking for talent. Now, even though they say they're a small studio, they still kind of are, big. Their publisher is EA, so even though they're a small studio, they're still kind of huge. And I remember after Jedi Fallen Order was released, one of their senior designers, I think he was a lead technical designer, after shipping that game, moved on to another studio with, a game that was actually much less, I would say, popular than, the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And I thought to myself, man, why would this person have moved? I mean, they just literally shipped a very successful Star Wars game. I mean, what would have been the circumstances? Now, I don't know what the circumstances are, but it seems to me that there are these kinds of, interesting changes that game developers, especially in the senior roles or in the more experienced roles, are taking on. And I think this may be sort of what may be influencing it. Now, in terms of Nikki Coupons, I mean, like I said, I don't know what the circumstances are, but if I would take my best guess, and like I said, when he first made the announcement that there might be things where he probably wants to enjoy the family and enjoy some of the aspects of, them just having a very new child in their family. And I think this might be heavily influential as well. So you add all of these things together, it makes sense. And now a lot more game developers are probably hopping on this train in order for them to be able to enjoy, just the blessings of a small studio, smaller team, less hiccups. You already have the resume. So if any point, in time you want to go and pick up a job at a bigger studio, it's not going to be a problem for somebody like him, if you were to ask me. And so I think these trends, we're going to continue to see them. Now, another thing that's also made these trends quite favorable is also 2020. We've talked about this a lot on this channel where, having seen everything that happened in 2020, a lot of the gaming scene saw AAA companies postpone a bunch of their games. And this postponement pretty much changed everything for, I don't know if I would say the worse or for the better. It depends on where you're looking at this from. So a game called Mortal Shell was a game that released even around the middle, or I would say Q2 of last year. The game did very well, while a whole lot of other games that were supposed to come out at that time got delayed. If you guys were paying attention, Marvel's Avengers got delayed, Cyberpunk 2077 got delayed, and The Last of Us 2 got delayed. These were three AAA games that were supposed to be released around that time, and none of them came out. In fact, Dying Light, there were also, talks that Dying Light was probably going to be coming out soon. So add that, and that will be probably 4 games. And none of those games showed up, while a game like Mortal Shell just happened to ship. It was also shipped by a very small studio called Cold Symmetry, and they were able to also, just drop that game and enjoy a lot of sales, enjoy a lot of spotlight. So here's the thing. A lot of these games that have gotten pushed into 2020, the question now lies, is it possible for these games to even be able to meet their 2022 deadline? I meant to say 2022, sorry. Is it possible for them to still meet that deadline? Are they still going to be able to drop their games next year as they're promising? Or is the huge, amount of, employees and staff and coordination still going to hinder or stifle their development, when the time comes for them to release these games? And at the same time, one of the reasons I said, depending on how you look at it, are the indie studios going to still be enjoying exactly what it is that small teams enjoy, which is the ability for them to be able to make huge, strides because they only have a very limited amount of people to work on a project. And then when you add all of the different extenuating circumstances, like being able to work remotely, dealing with a game where all you have to do is just share your main files across a very limited number of people, man, these are things that I feel like indie games are enjoying right now. And I feel for the next few years, we're going to see indie games just thrive and drop some really solid titles. And then to add icing to the cake, I just showed you guys a game like The Ascent. The Ascent was picked up by the Xbox Game Pass, and Xbox, whenever they put your game on Game Pass, I've heard that the arrangements actually span all the way to you receiving your development cost. And so that's a very solid deal. So if Microsoft is throwing this kind of a, deal out there and allowing for developers to be able to benefit from their work, especially indie developers, then it sets the stage even more for these developers to be able to take on their projects, get them done, and ship them, while big studios are still just, trying to get their act together because they have to coordinate through tons and tons of teams. Add to that, you have other companies like Epic as well. Epic Games is huge in taking on these indie games and saying, oh, make it an Epic Store exclusive, or make it an Epic exclusive with PlayStation exclusive. So these indie studios find themselves in a place where they're sitting behind the manufacturer or the game store war in a case of Epic and Steam, or Microsoft and Sony, and they just stand to benefit all around, where it really does work for them. So as Nikki has now moved on to this particular studio, I think there are these factors that may also be weighing in there. Either the factors that I mentioned on the market side, or maybe personal, or maybe even a combined. And I think we're going to continue to see this over and over again. Once these games start to, drop in 2022, once, these projects start to get completed, I would say follow your favorite game, follow your favorite studio, and watch for your favorite developers, or even the developers in that studio, or watch for job openings and see exactly what changes are being made. Anyways, that's pretty much my video. I wanted to go ahead and share this with you guys here in the Division community. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll see in another one. Peace out.